Why is it that so many guys who are genuinely great on paper end up pushing away the women they're most attracted to? You have the job, you have the ambition, you have the good intentions, but somehow, the more you try to connect, the more distant she becomes. Have you ever found yourself staring at your phone, overthinking every message you're about to send, crafting and recrafting texts, wondering if you're saying too much or not enough? You're not alone. Today, I want to talk about a pattern I've noticed in myself and in countless men I've worked with: over communication. That instinct to fill every silence, explain every thought, and constantly check in, and why it might be the very thing standing between you and the connection you're looking for. Think about it. Most of us grew up believing that communication is the foundation of any good relationship. Just talk it out. Be open about your feelings. Don't keep secrets. These are good principles, but somewhere along the way, many of us misinterpreted good communication as more communication. You've probably experienced this before. You meet someone you really like. The conversation flows naturally at first, but then, as your interest grows, something shifts. You start sending longer messages. You respond immediately. You initiate conversations more frequently. You explain your thoughts in extreme detail. And slowly, you notice her responses becoming shorter, less enthusiastic, and less frequent. What's happening here? You're doing everything you've been told to do. You're communicating openly. You're showing interest. You're making an effort. So why is it backfiring? The truth is harder to accept than you might think. When you over-communicate, you're not actually connecting more deeply. You're creating distance. Here's the psychology behind it. When you feel the need to fill every silence, explain every decision, and constantly check in, you're not acting from a place of confidence or security. You're acting from uncertainty. You're seeking validation, reassurance, and control. And on some level, she can sense this. It's like holding a butterfly too tightly. The very act of trying to keep it close is what makes it want to fly away. I remember a relationship I had years ago. I was completely infatuated with her. I wanted to know everything about her, and I wanted her to know everything about me. I'd send paragraph-long texts explaining my day, my thoughts, my feelings. I'd check in constantly to see how she was doing. I thought I was being attentive and caring, but the more I communicated, the more I felt her slipping away. Her responses became delayed, shorter, less engaged. And instead of taking the hint, I doubled down. I communicated even more, trying to recapture that initial connection. You can guess how that ended. It took me years to understand what went wrong. I was smothering her with my communication. I wasn't giving her space to wonder about me, to miss me, to develop her own desire to connect. I wasn't allowing any mystery or anticipation to build. I was filling every possible gap with my words, my needs, my presence. So what's the alternative? If over-communication pushes her away, is the answer to play games and deliberately withhold? Absolutely not. That's manipulative and ultimately just as insecure. The real solution is simpler, though not always easy. Communicate with purpose, not from need. Here's what I mean. When you communicate from need, you're seeking something external: validation, reassurance, or control. Your messages are actually requests in disguise. Do you still like me? Am I doing this right? Please don't lose interest. But when you communicate with purpose, you're coming from a place of giving, sharing, or practical necessity. Your communication adds value. It's not a hidden request. Think about the difference between these two texts. Hey, just checking in to see how your day is going. Mine's been pretty busy with work. Had a couple of meetings that ran long, but finally finished that project I was telling you about. Anyway, hope you're having a good one. What are you up to tonight? Versus, just saw a street performer juggling fire and playing the harmonica at the same time. Made me think of your story about your uncle at the family reunion. The first message seems innocent enough, but it's filled with hidden needs. It's saying, please validate that you're still interested by responding to my day and telling me about yours. The second message comes from a different place. It's a genuine moment of connection. It's saying, I saw something interesting and it made me think of you. Full stop. No hidden requests. No need for immediate validation. The key difference is that purposeful communication respects both her time and your own worth. It assumes that you are interesting enough, worthy enough, and secure enough not to need constant reassurance. Let's talk about some practical steps to shift from over-communication to purposeful communication. First, become aware of your patterns. When do you feel the urge to over-communicate? Is it when you feel uncertain about her interest? Is it when you're feeling insecure about the relationship? Is it when you're bored or lonely? Understanding your triggers helps you pause before acting on them. Second, before sending a message, ask yourself, what's my purpose here? If the honest answer is, I want reassurance that she's still interested, or I'm afraid she'll forget about me if I don't check in, then pause. That's communication from need, not purpose. Third, embrace space and silence. Allow gaps in communication. These gaps aren't empty, they're fertile ground for anticipation, curiosity, and desire to grow. When you're constantly in contact, there's no room for her to miss you. Fourth, focus on quality over quantity. One thoughtful message that genuinely adds value to her day is worth more than 10 just checking in texts. Share things that are actually interesting, funny, or meaningful. Be selective. Fifth, invest in your own life. The best antidote to overcommunication is having so much going on in your own world that you simply don't have time to overthink every interaction. Pursue your passions, deepen your friendships, advance your career. Become so engaged with your own life that checking your phone becomes an afterthought, not the main event. I want to emphasize something important here. This isn't about playing games or creating artificial scarcity. It's about developing genuine self-sufficiency and security. It's about communicating from a place of abundance rather than lack. When you're genuinely engaged with your own rich, fulfilling life, your communication naturally becomes more purposeful. You reach out when you have something to share, when you want to make plans, or when you're genuinely curious about her day, not because you need validation or reassurance. And here's the paradox. When you stop needing her responses to feel secure, she becomes more likely to respond. When you stop trying to pull her closer through constant communication, she's more likely to move toward you on her own. Think about the people you're most drawn to. They're probably not the ones who are always available, always checking in, always seeking your attention. They're the ones who have their own gravity. They have lives that are interesting and fulfilling on their own terms. When they do reach out, it means something. I've seen this transformation in myself and countless men I've worked with. When you shift from over-communication to purposeful communication, everything changes. The dynamic shifts, the power balances, and most importantly, the connection deepens. She starts to wonder about you. She becomes curious. She initiates more. She invests more. Not because you're playing games, but because you've become genuinely more interesting and self-sufficient. So the next time you feel that urge to send another text, to explain another thought, to fill another silence, pause. Ask yourself what need you're trying to fulfill. Then put your phone down and turn back to your own life, your own passions, your own purpose. Communicate when you have something meaningful to say, not because you need something from her. That's the difference between pushing her away and drawing her closer. Remember, true connection isn't built on constant contact. It's built on mutual respect, genuine interest, and the natural rhythm of coming together and moving apart. Like breathing, there's an inhale and an exhale. You need both to stay alive. Give her the space to inhale, to wonder about you, to miss you, to desire you, and watch as she moves closer, not because you demanded it or because you convinced her with your words, but because she chooses to, freely and authentically. That's the kind of connection worth waiting for.